Hour with Tumisandov.
It is 7:50 and we wrap up the Wednesday edition of the YOUFM Business Hour, where we're talking about all things 2023 budget, and we've heard much from the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana. Many have scored him fairly, one would say, this evening, and a tricky balancing act it has been. Michelle Austin, Financial Director at Kigo Group SA, joins us to further this conversation. Michelle, thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Tomi-san. Thank you so much for having me.
Out of 5, what would you score it?
Out of 5, probably a 3.
Tell me more, because there are a lot of balls that needed to be juggled, from social relief to the energy crisis to South Africa's debt, as well as fiscal consolidation.
Yeah, 100%. I don't envy our finance minister at all. I think that there's had to be some really, one of the things you said is some tough trade-offs between the country's short-term and long-term prosperity. So, it's about, a little bit of fiscal restraint, but also targeting the stabilization of debt. So yes, I think that there were some great things that came out in the budget and things that we were expecting. I think that the infrastructure spending is likely to help in many areas, including some job creation. But like you mentioned a little bit earlier, it's the sustainability of that job creation. Is it just going to be seasonal, or is it going to come in short bursts? One of my concerns is that the energy incentives that they've put in place, I'm concerned that it's not going to impact the broader society and small business.
Yeah.
So I'm really concerned that small businesses still might take the brunt of an economic downturn. So they're the ones that maybe don't have access to funding for these renewable energy and capital expenditures that they need to make. And does that mean that they're maybe not going to be able to take advantage of the incentives? So I was a little bit disheartened. I don't think that there was enough mentioned about unemployment, job creation, and crime. So I think, I'm a little bit concerned that there's still going to be quite a lag before renewable energy supplies actually start bearing some fruit. So I think. Like I said, I don't envy him. I think he has an incredibly difficult job to do, trying to, like you said, balance all these pieces and fit all these pieces of the puzzle together. I think, I think that there has been some relief for ordinary taxpayers, but my concern is that, are we not helping the rich and not the poor? Because the rich are typically the ones that are going to be able to afford these solutions, and the poor are the ones that maybe can't afford it. What about the small spaza shop in the townships? Are they going to be able to afford it and actually use those tax incentives?
Michelle, here's what I'm getting, and particularly from your tone in your reaction, is that there's far greater concern of what it is that the South African economy is willing to let go and what it is that it's willing to preserve. And when you speak of the small spaza shop, and maybe let me elevate my question slightly better, in that a small restaurant in the likes of a leafy suburb of Rosebank, if they've been running a generator for the past 8 months, that generator, number one, is going to tank. Diesel has gone up. It costs almost more than 21 Rand for a liter of diesel. So it means you are running money out of the well that is meant to be your pocket of profits. And that matter was not touched on in the budget when it comes to an interim solution of how those businesses are assisted. And it is those businesses that actually absorb the day-to-day kind of jobs. The workforce in South Africa that is not particularly educated or skilled at a higher echelon. So that's where I detect your concern from, because what you are essentially saying is that this budget does not necessarily speak to the poor.
Yes, 100%. And that is where we need assistance. And to be honest, if we look at the GDP of the country, I think it's 39% of the GDP is made up of small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
That is a significant number. Those are the businesses that are going to get us out of this crisis. They are the ones that we should be providing incentives to.
Those incentives are not really going to have a sweet taste in the mouths of the people that you and I are talking about, and much of the majority of the South African context.
100%.
But are there any green lights that you took from this budget, especially because it's been marred by how the state has neglected what we know as the public servants who actually fuel this economy too?
Yeah. So I think a few things that came out is that the economic growth last year was better than expected. And I think that we are doing a lot of the right things to improve the economy. There's the right reforms that are being mentioned. But a real concern of mine is that load shedding is really doing a lot to undo the good work that they're doing. And we really need to find some good, proper, quick wins in order to minimize the effects of the bad that it's doing. So yes, I do think there are some great things that came out. So a theme that ran through was, changing consumption into investment spending. There were things like, big infrastructure spend. I think that's great. Freight and logistics network support. I think that's also great. Then obviously the things like SARS raising their revenue capabilities, and then also helping in terms of inflation-linked increases related to social grants. I think that it is the people that are either below or on the breadline that are really struggling at the moment. So I think that providing them with some support is also great. So I think there really has been a bit of my response is a bit of a mixed one. But like I mentioned, I don't envy being in the finance minister's boots at all.
Thank goodness he has a thicker skin than you and I. I would have cried.
Indeed.
But I must thank you, Michelle, really for not tiptoeing around the issues that were not touched on, the issues that were slightly engaged by the finance minister, because it really affords us as ordinary South Africans, when we deliberate and think about what has been said, which concerns our economic participation and the country that we live in, and where we bring our children up, into a perspective that is not, airy-fairy. We are not misled by what politician tells us, but we need to be very aware of the finer details that come out of these.
100%. And I think that one of the things that is going to help this country is by not tiptoeing around the issues. We need to be ready and able and willing to speak about the problems. And that's the only way that we're going to drive solutions.
Absolutely, Michelle. Keep well. Thank you so much for giving us your insights.
Thank you so
Michelle
much.
Austin, Financial Director at Kigo Group SA. That's how we end the Budget Day edition on this Wednesday evening of the YOUFM Business Hour. Tomorrow, we go back to regular programming. Do join us between 7 and 8 p.m. as we go through all the elements that speak to the latest business news. I leave you with more of what the finance